Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Dr. Sadia Zafar and today I will continue my talk about the environmental impact assessment. In last lecture we have discussed about the environmental impact assessment, their parameters and about the quantification of the environmental impact assessment. And now we will discuss about the importance of environmental impact assessment. Relative importance of environmental parameters. All parameters are not equal importance or weight. Means all parameters are different, have different importance in different regions. Means it varies from country to country or region to region based upon the geographical distribution of that region. As regions are different, they have different land, different climatic conditions and different biodiversity or have different ecosystems, so they have different environmental parameters and depend on that ecosystem or biogeographical distribution of that region have different parameter or depend on the different parameters. So parameter which is important or main parameter in one region maybe has less important or has minor position in another region or in another country. Like in Bangladesh, flood, employment, agriculture, fisheries carries more importance. Now we will discuss in detail the relative importance of environmental parameters for Thana Road project. Environmental impact assessment procedure that includes 6 steps. First step is preparatory work, that is the about the study report, and second is data collection, that is from data will be collected from all sources or maybe from by collected by the surveys, different surveys of that regions. And data analysis means convert to change the scale. And the impact evaluation, that is about the relative weight. Mitigation and monitoring plan and preparation of the report that help in decision or for making the final decision. Environmental parameters like the ecological, that includes the fisheries that have 10 relative importance value and -2 degree of impact, and the forest that have 5 relative importance value and 0 degree of impact. The tree plantation that has relative importance value 2 and +1 degree of impact, and wetland or wetland habitat that has relative importance value 4 and 0 degree of impact, while the eutrophication that has 1 relative importance value and -1 degree of impact, and overall is -19. Overall environmental impact is -19. While the second environmental parameter, that is the physico-chemical, including the erosion and siltation, that has 2 relative importance value and -1 degree of impact. The regional hydrology and flooding that has 6 relative importance value and -1 degree of impact, and drainage congestion, that is the water logging, has 5 relative importance value and -1 degree of freedom, while the obstruction to the wastewater flow has 3 relative importance value and 0 degree of impact, and dust pollution or noise pollution has 2 relative importance value and 0 degree of impact, and overall environmental impact of physico-chemical is -13. The third environmental parameter, that is the human interest, that is overall the environmental impact value, that is 27, that has loss of agricultural lands, that has 8 relative importance value and 3 degree of impact, and the employment opportunities, that has 8 relative importance value and plus 4 degree of impact. The navigation or boat communication, that has 3 relative importance value and minus 3 degree of impact. The commercial and service facilities, that has 6 relative importance value and plus 3 degree of impact. The industrial activities, that has 3 relative importance value and plus 2 degree of impact. The irrigation facilities, that has 2 relative importance value and plus 3 degree of impact. The landscape, that has 2 relative importance value and minus 1 degree of impact. And overall environmental impact value for human interest is 27. And total all environmental parameters has total environmental impact value is minus 5, means overall collectively the environmental impact value is minus 5. The first parameter is the loss fish breeding. The action is loss of breeding, nursery and feeding grounds in flood plains, and their impact is reduction in fish protein consumption and unemployment of fishermen, while the mitigation measures, that allows controlled flooding and compensate the loss by fish culture. Obstruction to fish, the action includes the obstruction to mitigation of fish, and their impact is reduction in fish protein consumption and unemployment of fishermen, and mitigation measures, that provide the adequate opening in the roads and embankments along the routes of fish migration. And the pesticides, the action is reproduction failure and destruction of fish by uncontrolled use of pesticides, and the impact is reduction in fish protein consumption and unemployment of fishermen. And mitigation measures are adopt the integrated pest management for pest control and prevent the drainage from agricultural land from reaching the water bodies. Drying wetland, action includes the drying up of the wetlands for agriculture purpose and destruction of habitat for fish, birds, amphibians, etc. And their impacts includes the reduction in fisheries, elimination of species of fish, birds, amphibians, etc., and disruption of wetland ecology. And mitigation measures avoid the complete drying up of wetlands and swampland, restore the alternative habitat for endangered species. The action for cutting of trees are the clearing of forest lands and cutting of trees within the right of way of the road, and their impact is reduction in forest cover and reduction in forest products and disruption of forest ecology. And mitigation measures are find the alternative route to avoid the forest through planning exercise. Replace the trees by plantation along the roadsides. nonsense plant or invasive, the action is spreading of the invasive plants from borrow pit and their impact, that is the damage crops during flooding or flood, and the mitigation measures that incorporate the destruction of such plants in maintenance program and convert the plants into a composite for application as a soil conditioner or manure. Pollution from drainage, the action is discharge the nutrient-enriched agricultural land drainage in surface water and their impact causes the eutrophication and the surface water pollution that makes the water unsuitable for beneficial use or common use and destroys the aquatic environment or aquatic ecosystem or aquatic organisms life, and mitigation measures that prevent the agricultural land drainage from reaching the surface water. Water pollution, the action is reaching the residues of the pesticides in surface and groundwater from agricultural lands and impact cause water pollution and contaminates the source of water supply. Pesticide residues accumulate in biomass and mitigation measures are reduce use of pesticides and prevent the agricultural land drainage from reaching the surface water. Erosion and siltation, the action that includes the erosion of road and embankment surfaces and sides, roads opening, bed and banks of rivers, canals, subsequent siltation in downstream, and their impact cause damage to road and embankment and affect the stability of roads and their structures overall, and increase the water turbidity and the siltation of canal bed and agricultural lands. Mitigation measures for erosion and siltation is select appropriate soil for road and embankment construction and compact the road materials properly and provide the proper slope for surface drainage and vegetation cover, and also provide the adequate opening for discharge of flood and accumulated rain water. Drainage congestions or water logging. The action is the drainage congestion and the water logging, and the impact is crop damage and loss of agricultural lands that cause the water pollution and provide the ground for mosquito breedings. And mitigation measures provide adequate opening for drainage and provide the facilities for pumping of congested water. Regional hydrology, the action is disruption of regional hydrology through obstruction of flood flow, backwater effect due to constructions across the flood plains, and the impact is increase the duration, severity and frequency of flood and changes the flooding pattern and groundwater recharge. Mitigation measures that avoid the road construction across the floodplain in the direction perpendicular to the flood flow and provide adequate opening for the flood flow. The backflow action, that is backflow of the water through drainage canals and their impact causes early flooding. And mitigation measures includes the install the regulators to control the inflow and outflow through drainage canal. Obstruction to wastewater action includes the obstruction to wastewater flow by road and embankment, and their impact create the water pollution, deteriorates the quality of environment, and mitigation measures that provide the drainage structure and install the pumping facilities and install the treatment plant for wastewater treatment. Dust blowing the action of dust blowing from the unpaved roads during construction and movement of vehicles. Their impact includes the water health hazards due to the dust pollution and damage to vegetation and trees along the roads, and mitigation measures that control the moisture content during construction by watering and that stabilize the road surface with a suitable stabilizer and increase the vegetation cover on road surface and slopes. Polluted irrigation water action use of irrigation water with high and imbalanced salt content, and their impact increase the soil salinity and alkalinity or acidity or alteration of soil texture and permeability. The effects that affects the soil fertility, and mitigation measures use the surface water where available and conduct the chemical analysis of groundwater before use and select the aquifer producing good quality water. Determine the salinity of the surface water in coastal areas before use as irrigation water. Contaminated irrigation water. The action use of irrigation water with high iron content and impact impart the reddish color to topsoil and changes the soil texture and permeability, and mitigation measures includes the look for an alternative water source, the right strata producing water with low iron content, and detain the irritated water in a reservoir canal before application in the field. Loss of land action loss of agricultural land and the impact that deprives a group of farmers of their means of living, and that increases the landlessness in the area and reduces the employment in agriculture that affects the agricultural production, and mitigation measures the project to avoid the fertile agricultural land and rehabilitate the affected people, generate the employment opportunities in other activities. Obstruction to navigation. The action is the obstruction to navigation and playing of boat. Impact disruption of cheap mode of transportation and adverse effect on communication. Mitigation measures that provide the openings at major roads and construct the road structures, leaving the adequate clearance about high flood level for plying of boats. Landowner pattern. The action change in land ownership pattern within the project area. The impact that inequitable distribution of project benefits and mitigation measures, regulation of land ownership transfer in project area. Inadequate landscape, the action inadequate considerations to land use and landscape impact. The landscape disfiguration by irregular borrow pits, deep cuts, fills, unplanned growth of shops and other services, and mitigation measures that replant the disfigured surfaces. Use are designed to blend with landscape and prevent the unplanned construction and unauthorized uses of roads and embankment. There are some references, and thank you so much for your